The Cheating Death Podcast is a satirical program containing objective information about anything and everything under the sun. We are not political, we are not religious, we are merely analytical and perhaps a bit prodigious. This particular episode, dear listeners, is sure to raise some ire and or disdain in the hearts of some, but note that the objective of this episode is to provide you with as clear and as transparent as a solution, as well as an explanation as humanly possible. Note, if you are a returning listener to the program, you know full well that we are not left, we are not right, we are not center, we do not possess an opinion that is sponsored or endorsed by anyone. These views and this information is solely that of the Cheating Death Podcast, and if you would like to comment on the video below or send us an email, feel free to do so at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. But by now, you know that you have chosen to listen to the Cheating Death Podcast. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we dive into the truth behind the 11th of September 2001 attacks on the World Trade Centers and the individuals, families, lives it shaped and how it moved, and it completely changed the world going forward. How America has utilized the 11th of September 2001 attacks to perpetuate further policy upon its own citizens. We also provide you with a new Annihilation Announcement, an all-new joke of the episode, a top 5 list of the best skateboarders, and much, much more. So by now, dear listeners, you know what to do. Grab yourself an iced coffee and put your feet up and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. We generally utilize the Annihilation Announcement to focus on a point of contention or a way for you to look inside your soul and give you the energy to move towards a brighter tomorrow, utilizing your resilience and your endurance in this world. Today is no exception. For you see, as we move across the sands of time, and as we move forward in our own particular journeys, in our own exploration of what the world has to become, we note, dear listener, that instant gratification has become mandatory in most ways of life as of this particular point, and we would be absolutely lost if we did not express the specifics and the points of contention in which dwell within. Ask yourself, what is it that we are seeking? How is it that we are attempting to achieve our goals, our opportunities, and each and every single moment that presents itself in a benevolent way? There are litanies of ways each of us can go about executing our empathy and ensuring that we do what we can to help those around us by any means necessary. Though we must also remember to look inward and do what we can to believe in ourselves and to believe in our souls and to move forward in a way that the majority of individuals may need a moment or two to understand their power in order to see just exactly what they are capable of. Note that when you look inside your mind and inside your soul for solutions, 9 times out of 10, you will find what you seek. Sometimes it may take an extra hour or 2. It may take an extra day. But it is within these times that it is vital that we do absolutely everything to believe in ourselves, that we do everything to see just exactly what lays before us and dwells within. We do not know exactly what can be done in order to increase our benevolence, other than knowing that we can just choose to be better people and move forward in a way that we can specifically and uniquely identify how we can assist those in whom are in dire need of support, help, care, respect, or understanding. Your life, dear listener, will take on many roads. It will take on many trials and tribulations. But does that mean that you should surrender before death comes and removes you and takes you home? Absolutely not. For you see, drifting and figuring out exactly what you need to do are 2 of some of the most burdensome elements of life. Doing what you can to move forward sometimes takes courage. It sometimes takes a significant level of effort that you may not believe that you possess, but by understanding your capability and by fighting the war that you may have inside of your mind, you will do absolutely everything to believe and to foster a circle of creativity within yourself. Never surrender. Never give up. Never settle for anything less than what you deserve and have earned. We must destroy mediocrity at all costs. This has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this has been your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde, guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht. Ist ein Reisender und ein Ausländer, deine Allesfresser, deine Schauspieler, deine Künstler, deine Vernichter. Und heute ist ein schöner Tag, wo ich bin bereit, meine Freunde. Today, we take on a topic in as objective a possible way as we possibly can, for this, still 25 years later, is a subject of much divisiveness, of much derision, and of many questions, for the official report did not provide any official formal answer other than, I don't know, it was just these dudes from this country, to the masses of individuals in whom had lost family members, had lost friends, and had lost their very way of life. For you see, ladies and gentlemen, the 11th of September 2001 was one of the most vicious global terrorist attacks that ever took place, ever in the history of mankind, the identities of which have long since been subject to debate. People and the governments blamed Saudi Arabia. They blamed Afghanistan, they blamed Pakistan, they blamed pretty much anyone and everything except for the elephant in the room. And dear listener, we would be completely lost if we did not mention that the nature and the topic of this episode may not be for everyone. So if you are in a position to where you strongly feel one particular way about the 11th of September 2001 attacks, and you are not open to the idea and or concept of the information that we are about to provide, note that we took a litany of time before choosing to put this episode into circulation. We wanted to be sure that we had all of the facts to provide you before making this particular episode. Note, dear listeners, that the destruction and the end of the Twin Towers in the morning of the 11th of September 2001 is nothing short of a sheer atrocity and a calamity that faced and destroyed over 3,500 people. Their lives immediately snuffed out, ended as if they meant absolutely nothing. The collapse of the North and South Towers, after planes were directed into the buildings via the terrorist organizations in which were responsible for the attacks. Note that most will remember that the Pentagon was also hit by a missile, but that is also subject to debate given the nature and dynamics of not only the photographs of the damage that was sustained, but of exactly who and or where it was emanating from. Who raised the order? Who told the individuals that this is what must happen? Well, dear listeners, we will start here. The two towers, both the north and the south, were both struck by separate planes in the morning of September 11th, 2001. And it is also noted that within this time, the World Trade Center 7 building, although not directly hit by any planes or sustaining any severe damage on any level, was also destroyed. There is the numerous case examples of individuals attempting to test that jet fuel cannot melt steel beams, as the steel beams were of a construction grade that was not high enough to completely be melted and destroyed by that of the jet fuel and the planes that would have caused a collapse. No. In fact, to this day, if you go to New York City or you speak to anyone in whom was around the city at the time, they report hearing, seeing, witnessing different flashes go off at the foundation of the building, different little explosions that took place. Now, one would argue that the very destruction of these buildings was set in stone months before, when it was stated that the insurance companies that covered the building would no longer be able to cover at such a rate, and that they would be required to seek new providers, and this was not 100% confirmed to be an easy task. Rumor has it that the destruction of the buildings was an inside job, that it was an area of focus for the American government in order to ensure that Americans were fully under control, to justify the release of the Patriot Act and subsequent surveillance following henceforth. Dear listeners, you've waited long enough. We will be blunt and tell you point blank and specifically that the country and the force that was responsible for 9/11 itself was Israel. How do we know this? Take into consideration not only the military reports coming out of the 29th government of Israel from first Sharon cabinet and the subsequent parties within the legislature of the coalition government, and even the opposition leader, Yossi Sarid, were all directly involved in these particular endeavors. Understand that this government had 26 ministers and 15 deputy ministers, making it, at that time, dear listeners, coincidentally, the most voluminous Israeli political government in history. And given the opportunity and time around the time of the inclusion of the government of the 7th of March 2001, One must look at the numerology behind the meaning and the significance of the 7th of March 2001. 7 being the day, 3 being the month, and the end of 1 being 11. Now asking yourself exactly what this has to do with the terrorist attacks itself, one must look into Binyamin Ben Eliezer as well, for after the 2nd of November 2002, he was objectively resigned from office, as he was also very vocal about the force and the involvement that Israel itself had in the attacks on the 11th of September 2001. The blame fell upon Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, and while not a very nice man himself, Osama bin Laden was proven to have not been associated nor responsible for the attacks on the 11th of September 2001. Both the IDF and the Israeli government of the first Sharon cabinet, headed by the head of government Ariel Sharon, were directly responsible for not only the funding, but also the political dogma and campaigns of propaganda that spread the blame to other authorities. When the United States government worked specifically with the Israeli government to devise the strategies and tactics within, was George Bush directly responsible? No, for you see, this type of calamity, this type of power, superseded even him. He himself was not entirely aware of exactly what had transpired, and as you can tell based on that very, very viral clip of him being told about the attacks while reading a book to a group of school children, you know full well that they would not spend dozens of years, billions of dollars on covering up the real reason behind the overall arch of the attacks if it was not involving a country, a government in whom they are currently allied with. Note, dear listeners, that the atrocities that took place and the destruction of World Trade Center North and World Trade Center South and World Trade Center 7 will almost surely never be forgotten. But we also have to constantly ask ourselves exactly what is required to move forward in a world that has only been proven to be more direct in its surveilling of its citizens, the National Security Agency providing opportunities for each and every single soul to be surveyed upon, to be witnessed, to be analyzed and assessed without their knowledge. This would not be possible without the advent of the terrorist attacks of the 11th of September 2001. So note, dear listeners, if you yourself have any concerns or questions about the overall arc of the 9/11 attacks, feel free to consult the program, and we will be more than happy to provide you with direct links to the information and the government reports and the clearance required in order to access this information. Give yourself an opportunity to shine and see exactly what can be done in the nature and realms of circumstance. For today, dear listener, you know a little bit more about a situation that was completely avoidable. And for now, dear listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in today, and until next time, take care of yourselves, stay open-minded, and keep well for each other. At the top of today's episode, we promise you a list of our top 5 skateboard athletes of all time. And what would this list be, dear listeners, without a kickflip and a heel flip of entertaining fun? So without further ado, let us dive right in. Coming in at number 5, we have Bob Burnquist. Coming in at number 4, we have Rodney Mullen. Coming in at number 3, we have Tony Hawk. Coming in at number 2, we have Steve Caballero. And coming in at the bright and shiny number 1, ladies and gentlemen, we have Rune Cliffberg. What is your top 5? Feel free to email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Today's joke is brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. We often ask ourselves, how far will we go to reach the end of a lovely nap? Or how long are we able to sleep? Well, all you gotta do is ask me when September ends. For approximately 25 years, it has been a divisive topic among the majority of those in whom question the very nature and the very element of the 9/11 attacks upon the World Trade Center in New York City. Given the nature and socioeconomic circumstances of where we now dwell upon the gravitational and geopolitical plane, this terrorist attack was most unfortunate and most evil to inflict upon any nation, on any person, on any situation, and upon any particular specific state of mind or state of being. The terrorist attacks on the 11th of September 2001 were not just an attack upon buildings. They were not an attack upon a financial and industrial center of complete corporate collection. No, it was a statement against the American people. It was a statement against the hard-working individuals of the United States of America and those around the world in whom plied their trades and did what they could to increase their careers and move further beyond into a brighter tomorrow, with the World Trade Center's twin towers being those catalysts to create themselves a cash-filled destiny of generational wealth for their families and for their friends, in order to ensure that the world was able to see exactly what could be done. This particular atrocity was carried out in one of the most absolutely ruthless and brutal ways possible. Not only was it specifically designed to destroy American morale, but it was also designed to warn the remainder of the world exactly what would happen if you were to, quote-unquote, step out of line with the establishment. Dear listener, there is no question that the 11th of September 2001 was a most horrific day for the approximate 4,000 people in whom were laid to rest beneath the rubble of the Twin Towers and the World Trade Center Building 7. But we have to ask ourselves, of all the available information out there, the information that you have heard throughout the years has more than likely been congested and not very well digested. Throughout this program, we hoped to provide you with as much of an objective look into the beginning, the middle, and the end of the process of exactly who is to blame. For you see, the Commission upon the 11th of September attacks did not do anything other than provide the American people with temporary complacency and comfort. The amount of factual information within said report is absolutely abhorrently absent. We look into the reports provided by government officials as official statements of meaning, as moving into a brighter tomorrow, into an opportunity to learn from the mistakes and from the calamities of years past. However, dear listener, this in and of itself could not be any further from the truth. 25 years later, and there are still people out there who strongly and firmly believe that Saudi Arabia itself, or Afghanistan, or Iraq are responsible for the attacks, when in actuality we know firmly and we are completely aware that it was indeed the evils associated with the country of Israel that were directly responsible for the 9/11 attacks. And we must ask ourselves, how much longer are we going to continue with the United States and the Israeli connection, viewing it as anything less than the pure evil than what it always has been? You must not look any further than the Israel-Palestine crisis has taken place for centuries, millennia at this point, to understand exactly how and why it came to be, and how it has taken over 20 years for people to understand that Israel itself is responsible. Given the nature and the dynamics of how delicate this information is and how sensitive people still are to understanding what the truth behind these terrorist attacks were and are. We understand you may have comments. We understand you may have concerns. But you, dear listener, are owed the truth, and the understanding is that there is no better human being than one who asks questions, raises awareness, and does what they can to prepare their fellow soul for a potential of a brighter tomorrow. Until next time, dear listeners, thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Nach dem Leben CRDVC, Cleric of Chaos, and where you can find all podcasts on all platforms. Please follow the Cleric of Chaos and the Cheating Death Podcast at all of our social media links listed below. Follow each and every single one of our comedian, actor, musician, talented, special friends at each of their links in the episodes and in the podcast's description as well. And dear listeners, if you would like to support the program, you may do so by purchasing merchandise, buying a cameo, buying us a coffee, and much, much more. We would like to thank Julian as well as Major Chip for their generous donations to the Buy Me a Coffee and part of the program fund. We are grateful for your support. And of course, dear listeners, if you know of anyone in whom is dealing with substance abuse, gambling withdrawal, or any emergency calamity, please confirm and confer with the telephone numbers listed in the links in the episodes and in the podcast's description. If you or anyone you know is looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center, as they are in dire need of your support, and visit yummypets.com/voice. Sign up for a free account. Click the button every day to give shelter animals an opportunity to receive 330 pounds of kibble at the end of the month for their lovely sustenance. And we understand here at the program, dear listener, that over the course of time, you are going to ask yourself many questions that may not have answers. All that matters is that you do what you can to see it through, to live another day. We, here at the Cheating Death Podcast, know that life is not easy, but that does not mean you should ever surrender before your time comes near. Remember, we are pulling for you. We are all in this together.